You know, a lot going on in the past, a lot to reflect on, a lot of things going on. Hope everybody's doing all right, safe and sound. You know, I'll say take one day at a time. Start off a better day than you were yesterday. That's what I like to say. So where I want to start? Well, I caught the most of the highlights. Boy, that thing with Georgia and Florida State. Ooh, that was brutal. Guess they got that right for the final, the final four, which are going to start tomorrow. Um, Michigan, Alabama, Texas, Washington. So that college football thing is crazy. So I saw Ohio State. That was the game the way they lost. But anyway, yeah, that thing with Georgia was a statement. I still think they should have gone six, maybe eight teams this year playoffs. I'm not sure that, even though Michigan's my team, can't say there was consensus number one team that I said that was unhonorable. So we'll see how it plays out. Obviously, last night everybody's still talking about the Detroit Dallas game. You know, good and well, they honored Jimmy Johnson and all that fanfare, long overdue, ring of honor. But Detroit got robbed. Them refs suck. The refs suck. They've been embarrassing. They're embarrassing in all the pro sports. For all the instant replays and all the stuff you got, they can't get it right. It's just kind of like, why even bother now? I mean, what is the purpose of having instant replay or saying this and that? The Dallas knew they lost that game. Should have lost that game. They lose those three straight. Mark my words. They're gonna be a first round casher. They still might be, but they really would have been. You know. Now, granted, there was some Detroit tried to be cute in some instances, didn't kick a couple field goals or try this or that, but they came to win in different ways. Winnable game, you know. Now CJ Lamb got off for Dallas, but those two teams are pretty evenly matched. And if you're a Cowboys fan, you can't feel too good. Dak threw a pick, and they didn't look that good. They were struggling. They struggled their last two games at home against them and Seattle. So if I'm Dallas, you're very vulnerable. Very. Detroit got robbed. No ifs and buts about it. Dan Campbell, they were right to be upset. Them refs are bought and paid. They were two things. They weren't gonna give it to them on Jimmy Johnson night, and they weren't gonna let them win in Dallas. That's just the sad reality. Bad refs. And you know, more falling out with Russell Wilson talking about to take a price deduction. Well, yeah, expect that. That's how it was. They wanted him to take a hit, took a hit. So that wasn't a surprise. You know, he's not wanted in Denver, and he probably won't be touched by too many teams in the NFL. It's a shame too. Keep him around. And I know Sean Payton wanted him out day one. It's almost like it was a headhunter job. It seems very sinister. Believe me, he's better than a lot of the mess that goes around. But it's some tactics going on. Paul Abdul's suit against Nigel from American Idol, very believable, very credible. I did a video about it. I'm not the biggest Paul Abdul fan, but very believable. Very believable. It goes on every day in the industry. It's nothing new. People don't say nothing for years because of retaliation, and plus the money's on these people. You gotta remember something. There is a bankers, investors, and people will put money to protect their assets. And if you ain't one of their assets, they ain't got no use for you. So, you know, that's how it go. You're gonna hear a lot more of these cases coming. The only time it's ever really credible and believable is when it actually goes to court. It's easy to get a lawsuit than it is to go to court because it's easy to get to the bag. That's just the reality of the game. So I expect more of that in 2024. And with the Epstein files and all the stuff coming, I expect more of that. Um, got asked about, I don't know, someone was still talking about the Golden State Warriors. Um, you know, talking about how they would have fared against the Bulls. I'll do this in this live with Jordan amongst the greats. I think as an individual player, you can't dispute a man that changed the course of basketball. However, when we talk in the team situation, I don't know. Because as great as Durant and were, and I know people talk about the rules of the now and the then, which would have helped Golden State against the Bulls today to an extent. But you got to remember something. Phil Jackson employed a heavy guard, multiple body situation. he didn't really go with a lot of centers per se. So it's not like they were heavy centerfied. So Golden State has not been centerfied either. So, you look at the situations, Draymond Green against Rodman or Klay Thompson, Steph against Jordan Pippen, and maybe if you have Ron Harper. It all depends on what the matchups and the lineups are. But Phil Jackson would have figured out a way. Obviously, if it's back in the 90s, I think the Bulls beat Curry and them 4-1 with the old way they used to pound you and beat you. If I go up to today, I think the Bulls win in about 7. I just think that, I think Curry and Jordan would probably almost cancel each other out. Pippen and Clay would be interesting. That would be interesting. And then you got Rodman against how he goes against Durant. But I just think that Chicago had a better bench. And it would all depends on the adjustments, If because it depends on what you put. They both in the same packaging of not having a dominant big. So that, but I just think that Chicago gets a little bit of a nod. I know Curry ain't going to be stopped. Jordan ain't going to be stopped. Pippen and Clay, depends on who can insert their will in their way. Depends. And then Draymond, Rodman, or how they go against Durant. Durant would be key. So it all depends. But I think Chicago's bench had a little bit more. But that's just all in fantasy and everything. People like to go what if because they're really bored by what they see. That's what you start to do when you really don't have anything to debate because there ain't really nothing out here. Yeah, and I did a video about Shakers Alexander being MVP worthy. Yeah, he is. He was a top 10 for MVP last year. He was a top 10 player last year. Now if OKC comes up strong in the West and they can do something in the postseason, he puts pressure on Luka Doncic. Luka's the one who'll have to worry about Shea because then it's like you get all this hype. But this cat, he's also from Canada. He's from overseas. He's out of the country. He making a statement despite Josh Giddey's situation. He's still holding up. Chad Helm got Rookie of the Year. They doing good. They doing real good, making some statement wins. So I want to see the new guard in the West come up. I want to see Shea, OKC, De'Aaron Fox with Sacramento. I want to see Ant with Minnesota. I want to see the new guard take over because the West is time for the change. The East don't quite get it right. Giannis got it right, but Tatum and Brown have been just kind of like playing around, and your Boston be flirting with it. But Miami's went to 2 finals with Jimmy Butler. Imagine that. So I haven't seen a balance, and I don't. Trae Young, he's just one of those guys. He'll be a side piece. He ain't really, stats are nice in places, but you already know. So that's what's up with that. But anyway, yeah, just reflecting on a lot of different things. It's been another one of them strange years. A lot of things happening. Things you're looking at, what's going on, so on and so forth. So, we're just hoping that people be safe and careful. A lot of the same stuff that's been going on the last few years is still going on now. So, keep yourself together, stay focused and everything like that. Take one day at a time. That's all you can ever do. Can't rush nothing. Nothing is for certain. Nothing is take nothing for granted. So keep your spiritual mojo going. Keep yourself up. That's what I gotta say about that. What else did I come across? I mean, I was I was talking about Floyd Mayweather. He was dominant, but they never talk about him. They talk more about Conor McGregor still than they do Floyd Mayweather. Money spent on different people for different reasons. So how I go. So that's kind of like one of those things that you just kind of just have to like decipher, put in perspective, things you have to look at. So yeah, where it goes, it's gonna be interesting. We're real interested. I think I touched on that in my last video talking about that, but we'll see how it plays out. This is like I said, the NFL goes on like a week too long. All these teams don't need to be around the second or the first week in January. They but need to be home. they butt should have been like out the pasture. So, you know, it's too long. And they still don't get the refs right. You know. Yeah, I was just looking at some videos, looking at the brother that's a quarterback for Alabama and talking about Steve Scurzy guy. Um, they always try to downplay the black quarterback. They showed old footage of Bill Polian saying Lamar Jackson would have been better as a receiver and all that. You know, you always hear the same old stuff. You know, they've always done that. It's still the same good old boy network. You know, and ain't much change with that. Now, I wanted to talk back on. I'm going to do my football takes in full depth on my video tomorrow, but looking at the Detroit game, Jared Goff threw a bad pick. This same old Lions stuff. I just don't trust them. They just strike me as it's a nice little cute story. I'm not buying them though. They got to win their game last night. They got to win their game. You know, don't leave Dallas without the W. If you beat them, you make a statement, and they didn't make a statement. So, um, they got robbed, but still, you got to win their game. Can't trust the refs. Mm-mm. Can't trust them. What's going on? So, yeah. And I saw I did a video about the Missouri Board of Education. They decided to, because they were getting a backlash about them vetoing Black History Month, and they definitely caught some backlash, and rightfully so. Black history is still like it was used as an elective, and it's once a month. I mean, come on now, but there's a lot of hatefulness in that particular segregated place, and it's par for the core. If you never are taught about everyone's history, then you understand the contributions. You understand the body of works, the impact, and it's done on purpose like that. There is a reason and a rhyme for the miscarriage of one's history, ancestry, and what have you. That's why reparations is so important and vital, because then it shuts down any doubt about what people are like, well, we don't want to do this, or we don't acknowledge that, or do this. Well, when you have to acknowledge the truth, and in America, it's always about the money. So if you tell the truth, the real truth, the whole truth, and nothing but, then you'll see what I'm talking about. They can't even dispute it. They can't even dispute it. So that's one of the things that's going on with that. You know, um, people was asking about. Um, I guess it was a question about with hip hop or something like what they see going on with it. I said it's gonna be much along the same. You know, there's an agenda at work, and I tell anybody, I said nowadays you don't have to. And people thought the hip hop had died off or this or that and the other. I said, look, they deleted Easy, Pac, Biggie, Big L, but they still gonna thrive. They still gonna push it. They still got agendas. They still got people. The only problem is that it's all in the merch. It's all gonna be commercialized. So it all depends on how you approach it. All depends on how you approach it. I got asked a good musical question though about Jewel, the artist, and how come she as big as she was, and how it relates to Taylor Swift. And I said that's a good analogy because Jewel, remember the story? She was living in a car, and that album went 10 times platinum, and she was big. And then, if I'm not mistaken, I think she's hanging out with Kevin Costner now, if I'm not mistaken. But good classic example of a middle of the road white girl strum a couple chords on a guitar, blow up. They put money behind her, you know. Um, good example, good example of mediocrity that blows up because it's not that deep, but that's what they've done. Jewel's a good example of it, you know. Then every few years they find another mediocre white female actor they want to put some money behind and blow them up, you know, for whatever the agenda is. And that's how I look at Taylor Swift. So, you know, Yeah, I got asked what I thought about Colin Coward watching the sports shows. I laugh. He's like a bad comedian, and he very white in his thoughts and his takes. You know, the way he approaches things, and then he turns around and flip flops like they mostly do. They just talking heads on sticks. You know, they talk about how you might have to go to school to be a broadcaster. No, you don't. If you know what you're talking about and you can intellectualize it and put in perspective, you can speak with the best of them. You don't have to go to school to be no ESPN broadcaster because most of them just be reading off a script. And if they hate on black athletes, they will get a raise and a bonus, you know. And if you don't have any personality and you're dry to the bone, they got it all scripted out. The days of personality based people in these broadcasting situations is a lost art. It's a lost art, you know. I was fortunate enough to remember Stuart Scott and John Sanders. And even old half Italian can make up his mind if he wants to. Him and Kamala Harris could be an incredible couple. Mike Tirico, he was bad what he do. He's rounded, you know. So if you're good, you're good. It's the old adage. So that's how I look at it. My thoughts about the Jimmy Johnson getting his ring on, it was long overdue. Obviously, the Cowboys haven't been, Barry Switzer got the Jimmy Johnson side ring, but he really, it's kind of like George Seifert getting Bill Walsh's ring and John Gruden getting Tony Dungy's ring. They do that a lot, especially, NFL. That's real no, that happens a lot. Other sports too, but it's more noticeable in NFL. Guy just happened to be in the right situation, you know, just saying. But anyway, they guess they let their bygones be bygones. It was arrogance and ego, but you can never be an owner, a GM, and think you're more than what a coach does. It just doesn't work that way. You have to have the right talent. You got to compartmentalize and make it happen. It was good to see Michael Irvin, Emmitt Smith, Troy Aikman come down. They were all part of Jimmy. Charles Haley was too. Darren Woodson was too. Of course, I was glad to see Roger Staubach and Tony Dorsett and Drew Pearson too. Some of the old guard. I saw Randy White, you know. But the thing is that um, Jimmy Johnson was great in Dallas and probably would have had a chance to go back again. Just got ran out. I noticed that with white head coaches, management stuff, too much success tends to they want to wreck stuff, and I just don't understand. It's like what Belichick did with Brady. Why would you wreck a sure thing? You know how hard it is to win. You got to ride them wheels so they come off. You drive that car till the wheels come off. You don't do the Jerry Krause. Ryan Stark did that with Phil Jackson in Chicago. Why do they do that? Unless, of course, which leads the conspiracists out here to say that, hey, maybe things weren't as they seemed to be. Was there some funny business going on behind the scenes? But you see that a lot. hmm Pat Riley won 4 rings with the Lakers, got ran out. Greg Popovich is still staying in San Antonio, 6 trips, 5 rings. That's a rarity. But usually, for whatever reason, they run them out. Whereas a guy can go to one champ and lose, like Jeff Fisher did with Tennessee, and stay there for like 30 years. I mean, you know. So go figure how this thing works. You know, I've watched it to see how it unfolds a lot. So if it's about winning, you want to put the best people forth, if that's what it's about. So it all depends on what people's idea of, you know, the success and so on and so forth. So it's a good marriage where it has to work and click. So that's how I look at that, you know. But a lot of details with that though. But yeah, it was long overdue. He got the ring of honor. You know, I didn't like how Jerry Jones had did Tom Landry back in the day and all them guys. And so I think that the smugness, I think there is some karma to why they haven't been as successful. And I think there's something there to it. So a lot of stuff with that. A lot of stuff with that. But yeah, it was long overdue. Long overdue with Jim with him. Yeah. Um. Hmm. Got asked about just thinking about movies and stuff. Well, I haven't really been compelled to go see nothing. Um. Not really. Not really. Haven't been compelled. I always get asked about the Eddie Murphy, Kevin Hart thing. Kevin Hart has had longevity, okay? But he ain't seen Eddie Murphy. He's not in the argument amongst the 30 greatest comedians, let alone seeing Eddie. You know, you had to be there with Eddie Murphy. Eddie was a movement. Eddie had people saying words and memorizing his lines and all kinds of things. It was like one of the moments in time, you know. I said Eddie was almost like the Michael Jackson of comedians because when he did it, he stopped everything cold. And he was pop culture. He was a walking, moving scene. And, you know, I'm not gonna say he was the best because I still take Richard Pryor, but being a charismatic comedian who had pop culture appeal, where like he was like the first rock star comedian, if you will, like that, really, because he hit in a way that it he connected with folks, So different types of levels of comedy, different levels of what. Now some people come in and talk about Chappelle. He tries to be articulate, funny. He gives you a story, kind of like in a prior Cosby kind of way, maybe with the on this thing. Comedy can be really abstract. It can be very straightforward. It all depends on how you're looking at it. I mean, I think the most underrated comedian ever was Paul Mooney. I thought he was probably the most honest cat because he script wrote with Pryor and Robin Williams did all kinds of stuff. Mooney never gets his due, you know. And sometimes they like to, I don't know, treat Paul Mooney like he was a Scottie Pippen, kind of like you could say, because he didn't quite hit it. He didn't quite have the star appeal of Richard Pryor, which very few people did do. So you're gonna be the sidekick, but you're gonna be memorable. So some very memorable situations like that. So you know, very memorable, very interesting text with that. So what was I reading that Obama had Meg the Stallion as one of his on his playlist or something, some song, something like that. I don't listen to Meg the Stallion or none of them like that, but I know some people do. It's not surprising, you know. Music lovers, you can't ever judge a book by its cover because people like different things for different reasons. You know, people aren't so straightforward with their music. I remember I was on the bus recently, and a white bus driver who I talked to him, and we just talking about music. And so when he mentioned the Spinners, I said, okay, because obviously the Spinners had big songs, big hits, crossover people. When the dude said Bobby Womack, I was like, oh, okay, you know something here. You got some soul in you, because we actually always had these discussions. What does the music say about the person? What does it say about, you know, how they reflect what they are? And it makes up for good discussion. So there's a certain type of artistry that you sit there and you're like, okay, you are it, you about it. You about it. So, you know, so that's a good thing when you can get that kind of conversation, when you can get that kind of feedback. So yeah, definitely. Yeah, it feels kind of strange. It's gonna start on a Monday. Actually, that's almost like symbolic that it will start the week off right. How people will project, and then the week goes by so fast. You think about where you were, what you're doing, what you want to do. You know, uh, your purpose, your goal, your ambition, your drive. So it's a lot of things to, you know. This year's gonna be wild and crazy with politics and people getting into all kinds of things and their all fundamental beliefs and just gonna be real interesting to say the least. So um, you know, be another crazy year out here in these streets. Some people want to get back into travel. Some people want to, explore different things. So you know, um, they will definitely have, interesting opportunities. I definitely believe how the weather plays out, the global warming. Um, there's a lot of things going on, a lot going on. So, um, temperatures are definitely different in places, and you definitely how you approach, uh, you know, how you look at things. So it's very important with choices and decisions and directions you choose to go in. So yeah, I got asked about. Oh yeah, we was talking about Doug Williams when he won that Super Bowl against Denver and how he just tore up John Elway's behind and massacred them. I remember no one ever talks about that Super Bowl. One of the greatest displays of dominance I've ever seen. Probably the most dominant one-sided performance I've ever seen in a Super Bowl to this day. Because people forget about Timothy Smith, who ran crazy against the Denver defense. He was on a mission, but Doug put on a clinic that second quarter. I mean, his passes were spot on. They were mind blowing. So I remember that day very well. Excuse me. I remember that day very well. And they tore Denver's behind up. So yeah. Just like yesterday. You be having some sports memories, things you were doing, what you were saying. I remember. I remember very well. So yeah, we're coming up near next year. Will be 2024. People talk about 1984, arguably the greatest year in popular culture musically. You know, Michael Jackson's Thriller was still dominating. Madonna's Like a Virgin was coming. Prince's Purple Rain soundtrack movie was coming. There was a lot going on. British pop was still explosive, big. You had a lot going on. Lionel Richie, Can't Slow Down. He was having a big year. There's a lot going on. A lot going on. The sounds, the styles. You think back to a certain particular era, what it was like, you know. Then you go back to 30 years ago, 94, the deletion of Kurt Cobain, the whole thing with Nirvana, that was the whole thing. Um, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre ran the streets musically. R. Kelly was big. Babyface was big. Madonna was still happening. Um, just a lot of different things. Of course, against Michael Jackson was crazy. O.J. Simpson. Yeah, we're coming up on, you think about these years and these times, you're thinking, whoa, remember when all these eras and stuff. And, you know, so it's a lot to kind of digest psychologically. A lot of memories, pop culture flashbacks. Remembering the things you did, where you were, what you saw. hmm You know, so it's a lot to take in. Time has a way of doing it for you. And sometimes you just have great memory about what you're doing. I think it's a lot of stuff is a tribute to, not only how you eat, how you drink, how you feel, but, the energy that you display, things that you give off, the vibrations, So I saw an interesting thing. They was actually doing something over in Britain where they're saying, do you think you should speak out against white privilege? I said, well, duh. I said, if it's obvious, yeah, just like in America, any place with that, because it has its benefit. People act like they scared to talk about, well, they are scared to talk about racial. They wonder why you talk about it, why you feel about it, because things have been injustice, things have not been balanced. And so when you felt like you've had some oppression, or when you felt like things have not been uh, balanced out in your livelihood, it's important that you let it be known. So it's definitely a must with that. So yeah, I would say to that country and other places, you know, if you know it's true, very blatant. So this year, um, you know, so important to hold that up. Very important to hold that up. Because you just never know. You never know. So it's important to hold that up. It's important to, let that be known. Life is very short. And yeah, I was asked about on the site, I was asking about the difference why Taraji P. Henson and then the whole thing. And I said, well, black actresses are shafted against. I mean, or you get put into a stereotypical role. Um, if you don't play ball, that's how it goes. I mean, it's nothing new. Um, I was talking about Janelle Monáe, who did Hidden Figures with Taraji, and they put money on Janelle. She was in the Moonlight movie. She was, did different movies, music, you know, uh, music, stage, modeling. They keep money on who they want to keep money on. If they find someone they can style and profile, they will bag them. It's kind of like when I was talking about Jennifer Lopez and Rosie Perez. Rosie's a more talented version of the two, but Jennifer Lopez, they felt like they could manipulate and make more money with. So that's what they do, And I always get asked about church in the context of people to feel spiritual fulfillment. But don't act like you're not relating to people. Don't act like you're just saying it because it's a scene. You really have to put in perspective, you know. The whole thing with TD Jakes is sad and deplorable. Some people call him TD Cakes. Some will call him TD Snakes because he's going after bloggers and content creators who are speaking out against his association with Puffy and so on and so forth. Well, if he's got nothing to hide, then why is he coming after people? There was a video that leaked. I saw it. It's one of those things that if you're on the good side of everything, he would just say he prayers for Puffy. You wouldn't have to run and try to make it look more bad than it does because it makes him look bad. So nothing would surprise me or shock me. I grew up in the church, in different churches, and went to different experiences, and a lot of times the denial is real, the pimping is real, and the divide is real. So people like to, downplay what's going on with that. A lot of abuse and things have gone on, and people have looked the other way, which they tend to, especially when it's a tax write-off and deduction, and so so it's just like one of those things where here, because you know what you've seen and you know how it goes, but people are more comfortable with downplaying the reality of it. So it's real. And then of course I just did a video about the disrespect of Bill Russell, the great NBA player. Shaq didn't like the fact that Russell and Jordan's numbers retired in Miami. And I said already, I don't understand the Michael Jordan situation, but Bill Russell should be retired. I just don't understand why Bill Russell always gets so much hate. Because if he was white, they would applaud him. You don't hear white folks going out of their way to diss Babe Ruth, or anybody by white is considered significant. So why is it like that with the black athlete? So it's very unfortunate. Very unfortunate. So, because Bill Russell's arguably the GOAT. You can make a strong case. I mean, it takes defense to win championships. The man was a head coach and a player, so he should definitely get his flowers overflow. And plus, the championship is named after him. So, but again, it goes back to lack of respect for black culture and people. Because if that were the case, we wouldn't be having these conversations almost in 2024 where people are actually like, why it's got to be him? why this, as opposed to saying thank you, as opposed to understanding that without his merits, his blood, sweat, and his tears and what he went through, you wouldn't have a chance. They could make it very more difficult for you. So, you know, so it's just a reminder for people who, you know, don't want, don't understand. So, yeah. So that's what's up with that. So, yeah. So I'll be on for a couple more minutes. I'll give people a chance if they come through. If I want to come through and say something. If not, I'll definitely come back. I won't back till next week. But just give it a few minutes and stuff. Like I said, I understand people have weekends and things that's going on. And sometimes these YouTube streets, you want to do something else. So I got it. But I thought I'd come along, do a Q&A. If I wanted to chop it up, talk about anything, whatever was going on, you know. Um, you know, see what's up out there. So it's one of those kind of days where you could just kind of just float and relax and just chill. And sometimes that's all it's good to do. You just want to kind of just be one with your own vibe, you know. So I definitely get it. So we'll see what goes on. We'll definitely see what goes on. So, it's a lot to think about, you know. You got those days where you got a lot going through your mind. A lot of topics, but again, helps when, you know, again, when people got something to say. I think all the NFL games are on today. And I just know the college games are on tomorrow for football. So they're going to be interesting. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how Michigan stacks up against Alabama. That's a big game right there. Pretty much whoever wins that game, I think, will win the national title. That's how I think it'll be. I don't look at the Texas Washington game as a title decider. So we'll see. You know. But if you're Michigan, you got to do better than you did last year against TCU because TCU beat you. Never got held back. And then, of course, TCU went against Georgia and got the doorknobs beat off of them badly and brutally. That's one of the reasons why if we have another situation, we have a college bowl situation that don't merit to the merits, people are going to be up in arms, and rightfully so. So hopefully they get these four right. We shall see. We shall definitely see. So, you know. And I don't know, I might come back later to see if anybody's on. Be in a few hours, but I just thought I'd do a quick early chat just to chop the breeze up, see if anybody was up. So, anyway, for now, I'm signing off. I'm going to go meet some peanut butter and jelly. Peace in the best. I'll catch you. I might be back on later. All right, I'm out. Peace.